At 0347 local time, thermal satellites detected simultaneous heat blooms across 17 coastal sites in southern Iran. Within 90 seconds, over 300 unmanned aerial vehicles climbed into the night sky, their infrared signatures painting a constellation of death converging on a single target, the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group, transiting the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian Revolutionary Guard commanders watched their screens with grim satisfaction. Years of planning, hundreds of millions in drone development, and thousands of hours studying American defense systems had led to this moment. They believed they had cracked the code. Overwhelm the interceptors through sheer numbers, bleed the magazines dry, then send the killing blow. They were spectacularly, catastrophically wrong. The E-2D Advanced Hawkeye, orbiting at 28,000 feet, had every contact mapped before the first drone reached 2,000 feet. The APY-9 radar system aboard that aircraft can track a baseball at 250 miles while juggling over 2,000 simultaneous contacts. 300 Shahed 136 drones, each with the radar cross-section of a Honda Civic, flying straight and level with all the stealth of a marching band, registered as clearly as fireworks against a black sky. Through the Cooperative Engagement Network, every destroyer, cruiser, and air defense platform in the strike group received identical targeting data within 1.4 seconds. The entire battle group became a single organism with multiple brains and dozens of trigger fingers. Iranian intelligence had studied this scenario obsessively. Their analysts knew the Americans carried roughly 96 vertical launch cells per destroyer, but only 60% were loaded with air defense interceptors. The math was simple and brutal. An SM-2 missile costs $2.1 million. A Shahed 136 costs $20,000. Send enough drones and the economic calculation becomes a noose. The Americans would burn through $126 million in missiles, stopping $6 million in drones. And when the magazines ran dry, the second wave would walk in unopposed. Iranian officers had wargamed this exact scenario 47 times. 47 times they achieved penetration. 47 times they struck the carrier. 48 was about to go very differently. Aboard the destroyer USS Porter, positioned on the northern edge of the defensive screen, something new sat between the VLS cells and the bridge superstructure. To casual observation, it resembled a standard phased array radar panel, roughly the size of a shipping container, bolted to the forward deck. Iranian satellite imagery had cataloged it as a communications upgrade during the Porter's last refit. Classification: non-threatening. That assessment was about to become the most expensive intelligence failure in modern Iranian military history. At 0351, with the leading drones crossing 40 kilometers, the tactical action officer aboard the Ford gave an order that confused half his command team. Helios to weapons-free, all sectors. The panel on the Porter's deck began to hum, not the mechanical whir of motors or the whoosh of missile launches, but a rising electromagnetic tone that only sensitive instruments could detect. This was the AN-ESEQ-4 Helios, the Navy's first operational ship-mounted directed energy weapon, and it could do something that fundamentally broke every assumption Iranian war planners had made. At 0352, the first laser engaged at 38 kilometers. No smoke trail, no flash, no warning. An invisible beam of concentrated light delivering 300 kilowatts of energy onto a target moving at 185 kilometers per hour, held steady by adaptive optics that compensated for atmospheric distortion 60 times per second. The lead Shahed's composite airframe began to superheat.
2 seconds later, its GPS module melted. 3 seconds after that, the fuel tank ruptured. The drone tumbled from the sky like a broken bird, its operator 300 kilometers away, seeing nothing but a dead telemetry feed and zero explanation. In the Iranian command bunker near Bandar Abbas, confusion turned to alarm. Drone feeds were winking out in clusters. No missile exhaust plumes on satellite. No radar warning receivers triggering on the drones. No jamming signatures. Just deletion. 17 contacts gone in 40 seconds, then 34, then 61. The Iranian intelligence drone orbiting at 14,000 feet transmitted everything back to Tehran in real time, and what it showed made no tactical sense. The American destroyers weren't launching missiles. The Sea Whiz close-in weapons systems remained silent. The strike group was just sitting there, and Iranian drones were falling from the sky.
At 03:57, Iranian command made their second mistake. Convinced this was some new electronic warfare capability, they triggered their backup plan. Hardened, GPS-denied, optically guided drones. 74 Mohajer 6 UAVs launched from inland sites, following terrain-masking flight profiles at 50 meters above the desert, relying on electro-optical tracking to navigate toward pre-programmed coordinates. These were the expensive drones, $200,000 each, carrying real sensors and actual guidance computers. They never made it to the coast. What Iranian commanders didn't know was that the Ford Carrier Group had deployed a technology they'd never seen outside classified briefings. The MQ-25 Stingray tankers orbiting at 45,000 feet weren't just refueling aircraft, they were flying laser relay stations. The Helios system aboard the Porter could fire directly at drones within line of sight, but the MQ-25s carried mirrors, precision-targeted, AI-stabilized mirrors that could redirect laser beams over the horizon, engaging targets 200 kilometers away that the source ship couldn't even see. Mohajer drones threading through mountain valleys at 50 meters suddenly found themselves illuminated by invisible fire from directly above. Guidance cameras melted, flight computers fried, airframe structural members heated past failure point. 74 drones, $14.8 million worth of hardware converted to wreckage across the Iranian desert without a single American asset crossing into Iranian airspace. At 04:04, the Iranian command network went silent for 11 seconds. Not communication failure, shocked silence. Then the emergency protocols activated. 2 Khaibar-Shekan anti-ship ballistic missiles roared off mobile launchers near Shiraz. These were the weapons designed to kill aircraft carriers. Mach 5 terminal velocity, 650-kilogram warheads, maneuvering re-entry vehicles that could adjust aim in the final seconds. Behind them, 6 Ghadir-class midget submarines surged from coastal shelters, each carrying 2 Hoot supercavitating torpedoes. From 4 separate bases, 80 Shad 129 armed drones lifted off carrying anti-ship missiles. And from Bandar Abbas harbor, 12 fast attack boats surged seaward at 60 knots, each mounting C-802 anti-ship missiles. This was the doctrine: simultaneous, multi-domain assault. Ballistic missiles from above, torpedoes from below, cruise missiles from the horizon, drones from every bearing. Something eventually had to penetrate. The ballistic missiles demanded SM-3 interceptors. There was no alternative. 2 SM-3 Block 2A missiles punched out of VLS cells aboard the cruiser USS Gettysburg, their rocket motors accelerating them to Mach 10 as they climbed toward intercept altitude at 150 kilometers. Cost, $12 million per shot against targets that would crack a carrier's deck open like an eggshell. The interceptors met the Khaibar Shekens at 87 kilometers altitude, kinetic kill vehicles slamming into re-entry vehicles at combined speeds exceeding 15,000 kilometers per hour. Both ballistic missiles disintegrated into expanding debris clouds. But during those 14 seconds while the SM-3s were in flight, the Helios couldn't fire in the northern sector. The laser beam would fry the SM-3's guidance package as efficiently as it melted drones. This was the window Iran had been searching for. 40 drones surged through that sector, expecting to exploit the gap. What happened next demonstrated why the Navy had spent $47 billion on the Ford's electromagnetic aircraft launch system. An FA-18E Super Hornet launched off the deck with zero warning, catapult acceleration slamming the pilot into his seat at 3.5 Gs, combat airborne in 2.1 seconds. The aircraft carried something new under its centerline, an AN/ASQ 242 pod mounting a 150 kilowatt laser. Less powerful than the ship-mounted Helios, but mobile, airborne, and positioned exactly where it needed to be. The FA-18 climbed to 15,000 feet and engaged the northern sector from above, while the SM-3s were still climbing below. 12 drones down in 30 seconds. When the SM-3s cleared the sector, Helios swung back north and caught the remaining 28 in a 17-second engagement sequence. The submarines presented a different problem entirely. Running silent at 40 meters beneath the thermal layer, they should have been invisible, but the Ford Group had deployed autonomous underwater vehicles equipped with quantum magnetometers that could detect the magnetic anomaly of a submarine's hull from 12 kilometers away. The 6 Ghadirs were localized, tracked, and prosecuted by MH-60R Seahawks, dropping Mark 54 torpedoes before they ever reached launch range. 6 submarines, 14 years of construction, $840 million in hardware, eliminated in 8 minutes. The fast attack boats made it to within 28 kilometers before the orbiting MQ-25s repositioned their mirrors and brought laser fire down from them directly overhead. 12 boats became 12 debris fields, their C-802 missiles cooking off in secondary explosions that lit the Gulf like fireworks.
The armed Shahed 129s carrying Ya Ali cruise missiles represented the most sophisticated threat. These weren't suicide drones, but aerial launch platforms designed to release weapons at standoff range. At 0419, 41 Shahed 129s reached their launch baskets at 65 kilometers and released 82 Ya Ali missiles. This was the moment the Navy revealed its final card. The electromagnetic railgun mounted in the Ford's forward hull, classified EMRG-1, had never been publicly acknowledged. It could fire a 10-kilogram tungsten projectile at Mach 7 with a range exceeding 200 kilometers, and it could fire every 6 seconds. 14 railgun shots, 82 cruise missiles intercepted. At Mach 7, simple impact was sufficient. Each railgun shot cost $25,000. Each Ya Ali missile cost $180,000. The math had inverted completely. At 0428, 41 minutes after the first Iranian drone lifted off, the engagement ended. Iranian command had committed 374 drones, 82 cruise missiles, 2 ballistic missiles, 12 attack boats, and 6 submarines. American expenditure, 2 SM-3 interceptors, 6 Mk-54 torpedoes, 14 railgun shots, and approximately 400 seconds of laser operation, costing roughly $8,000 in electrical power. Total American expenditure, $24.6 million. Total Iranian losses, $1.2 billion. But the real cost was strategic. Every launch site that opened its doors was geolocated to within 2 meters. Every radar that activated was mapped and cataloged. The mobile launchers that drove from shelter to firing positions were tracked by hyperspectral satellites through their entire movement cycle. Iran hadn't just lost an assault, they'd revealed their entire coastal defense architecture to a strike group with full magazines and clearance to respond. At 04:45, 32 FA-18s launched from the ford, carrying precision-guided weapons. The launch sites, radar installations, and mobile launchers that revealed themselves during the attack were methodically destroyed over the next 4 hours. Decades of Iranian military infrastructure development erased in a single morning. The geopolitical shockwave rippled outward within hours. Every nation that had invested in drone swarm tactics as asymmetric counters to American power suddenly faced an uncomfortable reality. Those tactics were obsolete. China's plan to overwhelm Taiwan's defenses with thousands of cheap drones now required complete revision. Russia's doctrine of massed cruise missile attacks faced the same reckoning. Regional dynamics shifted immediately. Gulf states that had hedged between Washington and Tehran for decades abruptly recalculated their alignment. When Iranian weapons posed credible threats, accommodation made sense. When those weapons could be erased with near-perfect efficiency, the calculus changed entirely. Within days, multiple nations requested briefings on acquiring American directed energy systems. The engagement shattered the fundamental assumption that had governed military planning for 2 decades, that cheap, numerous weapons could overwhelm expensive, sophisticated defenses. Directed energy weapons inverted that equation. When each shot costs dollars instead of millions, numerical superiority becomes irrelevant. The side with better technology doesn't just win more efficiently, it wins inevitably. Iran's attempt to demonstrate its ability to threaten American power projection instead demonstrated exactly the opposite. Their most sophisticated assault, launched under optimal conditions, had been dismantled so thoroughly that analysts were calling it the most lopsided naval engagement in modern history. The balance of power in the Persian Gulf, carefully maintained through decades of development and diplomacy, had shifted decisively in a single 41-minute engagement that rewrote the rules of modern warfare.